Hi, True Avatars, and welcome to a bonus episode of your queer video game podcast. I am your host, Zoe Wild. I am a transgender and bisexual woman, and my pronouns are she, her. This bonus episode is all about the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that streamed on April 2nd. We have all the details, plus our thoughts on the amazing game reveals, and yes, even that incredibly high price point. Joining me today is Ekamy, a pansexual woman whose pronouns are she, her. Ekamy can be found on Twitch streaming games, cooking, and book club. How are you doing, Ekamy?
I'm doing good. Excited to get into this.
Me too. Also, here is Zoe Straw, a game dev from Montreal and previous guest on the show. Zoe is a transgender woman and her pronouns are she, her. Welcome back, Zoe. How are you?
I am so good. Oh my gosh. Hi, hello.
First time ever we have two Zoes and only one Amy. This is exciting. We can gang up on you now.
Oh, no.
Well, you know what? I want it to be as confusing as possible for Amy.
Before we jump into our topics this week, I have a few quick favors to ask of you, True Avatars. If you like this podcast, please consider leaving a comment or review on your preferred podcast platform. True Avatars has only been rated a handful of times across all the podcast platforms, and I've received a handful of amazing comments, but still no reviews. Ratings, comments, and reviews not only help with visibility, but they help me know what you like and don't like about the podcast so I can improve it moving forward. Also, please consider following True Avatars, a queer video game podcast, wherever you do your doom scrolling. There are accounts on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at the handle True Avatars. We have a Facebook page, and you can also find the podcast on the official website, trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word. And of course, I thank you very much for your support, True Avatars. All right, shall we jump straight into all the Nintendo Switch 2 stuff?
Let's get into it.
It looks really cool.
Okay, well, I'm going to just prime listeners with some of the details in case anyone missed the Direct first. And then, we're going to probably start off debating the price points. But first off, some of the specs. So there is some really cool stuff about this console. So it's going to be releasing June 5th. So 2 months away. It's got 4K resolution, at least does on TV, not handheld. HDR, 60 FPS, even 120 FPS for some games. But those will run at 1080p.
Well, that also means that the panel is 120 refresh rate, right?
Yeah, and I think it has variable refresh rate as well. I was reading today too.
Okay.
The price point though. So there's a whole bunch of details, and we're gonna come back to this price point because I don't think the console itself is as controversial as the games. But the price point in the US is 450 USD, and that here is supposed to be 650 Canadian, but they actually dropped the price a little bit to 630 Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
There's
How
also
generous.
a bundle. Sorry.
How generous.
I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess, but there is also a bundle that includes Mario Kart World, and buying that bundle will save you $20 on the game in your specific region, which actually is generous considering Nintendo, because they could have just put the whole $90 game in there.
I was expecting a bundle for Mario Kart just because that was the first game that they showed up even before the Direct. So I'm glad that they basically announced the bundle right after, during the Direct, but they made it available and had more information about it following the Direct.
Yeah, I also hope because there's a bundle, people are going to go for the bundle instead of the regular console without the game, because I want physical games for my console. So I hope that this gives me a better chance of getting one.
Very valid.
So just some quick details about the console that weren't revealed in that initial trailer that we talked about back in, I think, episode 16.5, our previous bonus podcast. So they finally revealed the C button on the right Joy-Con, and that's for in-game voice chat and video chat. You can screen share your Switch, or you can use a camera accessory to video chat with your friends while playing. And you can all be playing different games while playing together, by the way. So one person can be playing Mario Odyssey, another person can be playing Mario Party, another person can be playing Mario Kart, for example. I think there's one person in the trailer playing Balloon Fight, which people have been memeing a little bit.
It's very much it's really interesting how Nintendo is trying to integrate social features, but keep them very close to their family group or whatever.
Oh yeah, what was that about? That is it that you can only do it within.
Well, I think that you can do it in games, but they're really pushing the friends and family thing as a marketing angle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think they said anything about not chatting with strangers though.
Well, they have to because Nintendo is very very aggressively family in the way that they try to block any potential for explicit content hitting kids, which is a fool's errand because it still happens, Splatoon shit, but it's interesting. Their approach to social stuff is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they also think they also treated the whole reveal like they reinvented Discord.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I've actually I was thinking too when they revealed you were talking about the webcam accessory you can buy, and it was the whole like, oh, you can record yourself and it has the camera removes your background and you can be in the corner playing your game. And I just saw that and I was like, wow, Nintendo is really like, hey, you all want to be streamers, right?
Hey, do you remember Microsoft Teams 8 years ago? I'm actually, one of the things that I found really interesting about this was basically like, what are things that are hardware requirements and what are things that are software requirements? Like painting out a background is not a hardware thing, right? That is just that you have a video feed and you have software that's capable of doing that.
Right.
And same with like the audio suppression, and like those are good features. I like those things. Those are really good things to have on your console.
Mm-hmm. I am curious about the microphone, like just everything they said, it sounded like really cool.
Sounds magical.
But it's indeed. I am sometimes a little wary of built-in mics, but I mean, I guess I'm just curious about the whole thing. So, yeah.
I'm less wary about it because the console costs so much.
Valid. Okay. Yeah.
So just to get through a few more details, we have the confirmed mouse mode. The new Pro Controller actually has back buttons, which even PlayStation controllers don't have. There's a tech demo that they revealed to show off the Joy-Con 2s, and it's a paid game. It's not included, even though it's like literally a digital user manual.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's a paid game?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I was surprised.
When I was watching the Direct and I saw this, I was like, oh, this is like a free app pack-in kind of thing to get people... my... Wait, how many dollars?
They haven't revealed, but in Japanese yen, it's about the equivalent of, I think, £5, $7 or $8 US. But so far though, all the Japanese prices are like 30% lower, even converted. So it's not really, we're not really sure yet what US prices are gonna, or even Canadian prices are gonna look like for games.
Who is gonna go out of their way to buy that?
No one, especially since Astrobot was a full. Like, Astro's Playroom was a full game.
That is
it was
very
like a 3-hour
silly.
game, but like it was a full game and it was free with the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
So,
not to mention they built up, like, with Astrobot, they built up, like, hey, we're going to include this with the PS5, and I think they might have had a PS4 game as well, but yeah, it's free, you can try it, and then they had the new game come out, and people already knew about Astrobot, they had fun with it, so like, yeah, I'm going to put money towards a new game. Of course I would. Whereas this one, it's plainly a tech demo. They don't have any backing, really, of like, it's not a full game or anything, so, well, it is a game, but it's different.
We're past the years of Wii Sports, where like Wii Sports was a pretty solid game.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about Nintendo and pack-ins. Okay, Nintendo Japan doesn't like doing them. When Wii Sports came out with the Wii back in 2006, that was only outside of Japan because Reggie Fils-Aimé had to fight for that.
Really?
Yeah, he had to fight for that. And so in Japan, you had to buy Wii Sports separately. And I think, my opinion here, and again, I could be wrong, but I think Nintendo Wii didn't sell many games because people bought it because Wii Sports was the killer app, right? So I think Nintendo was scared of including a pack-in for free because people might not buy other games to play with it. That's my theory.
I mean, that's an interesting theory. I guess it depends on whether or not... So this goes back and forth in like console history. Was Nintendo selling the Wii at a loss or at a profit? Because like...
I don't think Nintendo's ever sold any console at a loss or handheld at a loss ever.
Because like a lot of like manufacturers will be like, I'm going to sell my console at a loss, but then also I'm going to make it up in game sales. And
yeah, I don't think Nintendo's like that though.
Oh, I don't know.
Not sure.
I know they didn't sell the Switch at a loss. I know that for sure. It was
there's no way. It even when it came out, it was like a mid-range Android tablet. Like I love a lot of Switch games. Nintendo doesn't need to make powerful hardware.
Weirdly, though, this time it looks powerful. I mean, not every game runs perfectly. I thought Cyberpunk actually looked like ass on it, but I think a lot of their first-party games could look better. But like all things considered, like they have PS5 features on this thing.
Yeah,
it's going to be a few years behind, you know.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And didn't they also mention that there would be some Bluetooth capability this time, which I don't think the Switch has? Or maybe recently the Switch had it, or I can't remember. There was some part at some point in time where they didn't have Bluetooth, I feel like.
They added it later, but I think, so what I understand about it, and I don't know if this is 100% confirmed or just a fan theory based on like tech knowledge and stuff, but the Joy-Cons use Bluetooth. So I think Nintendo was hesitant to it. Supposedly Nintendo was hesitant to enable Bluetooth features for other things because they didn't want it interfering with the connectivity to the Joy-Cons, which is why it came later.
Okay, interesting.
That's kind of interesting, yeah, because like back then it was like there weren't a billion devices in your house that all of were competing for that, and we realized like, oh no, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I'm super wrong. Yeah, no, the Wii was sold at a profit, so they made a shit ton of money just from the console sales.
Yeah, for sure. But then because it came with Wii Sports, like I know a lot of people didn't really buy much else. Software sales were famously very low on that console because like people who didn't play video games, like your grandmother and your grandfather at the time, were like buying this console.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Wii could ever be done again. Like as a marketing strategy, it was like one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, and didn't it also come with like, I mean, other than obviously Wii Sports, I'm pretty sure that Twilight Princess released with it, or near it at the very least. And I know it was also on GameCube, but that was a pretty big selling point when I was younger, when we bought our console.
Well, they did the same thing with the Wii U to the Switch, which is like, oh, like we have two versions of the game, because Zelda is a big system seller.
Oh yeah, right. I remember trying. What was it? Oh, right. It was Breath of the Wild because they had it on Wii U and they also had Switch. And I remember like borrowing it from the library, the Wii U version, because I just didn't have the money for a Switch. And man, it was so slow. Like I was just like, wow. Like
on the Switch, it was pretty slow.
Was it? I haven't played it very much. But
the game never got like a great frame rate. Like I never played it on the Wii U, but like if it was worse on the Wii U, then that's pretty bad.
I'm gonna put a pin in that discussion on Breath of the Wild frame rate because we are coming back to that specific point.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
I'm sure you know where we're going with this, and most listeners will too. But we're gonna come back to that because I want to debate the price. So I'm just gonna quickly jump through a couple of more details, and then we're gonna like scream about the price. So
I will not scream. I will lash out daintily.
Okay. There's a feature on this console now where you can share certain games with your friends locally, and I think online as well. For example, if you have a game but they don't, you can all still play together on separate systems. This is a feature they actually did on the DS originally. Yeah. So like if you had Mario Kart and your friends didn't, you could like send them Mario Kart, and I think the 3DS had it as well.
I think so for certain games. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it won't cover all games, but it had a lot. Yeah. Like I think Mario Kart is always one of those games where you can share it with friends. I don't know if the new Mario Kart will have that feature. I don't think it was shown in the Direct, but
no, I don't think so.
There were a few games they listed there. I think one of them was Captain Toad Treasure Tracker for some reason.
I need to play the first one of those on 3DS because I've been playing so much 3DS lately after 10 years, and oh my god, that looks really neat. I like puzzle games.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also, menu screen, the UI of the screen, like the UI, the menu screen, like all that stuff, like it looks exactly the same as the Switch one. Just white with your like games listed and then some buttons at the bottom. Backwards, I did learn this today, backwards compatible Switch 1 games, which is most games, they're actually being emulated on the Switch 1, but Nintendo didn't confirm how, just that it was somewhere between hardware and software emulation. Because the internals of this system are not the same as the previous console. So they had to figure out, and that's why a lot of games apparently they've like revealed a list of games that can't start up, a list of games that start up but have issues. And there's some notable ones on there actually. I don't remember what they are at the moment, but there is a pretty big list of games that can't start up and a decent sized list of games that have compatibility issues. And they also said that they are working to make sure these issues are gone by launch, but they are just like, I guess, full disclosure it because I guess people could like sue maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Huh.
But yeah, anyway, so price. So people have been debating this and it's like different for every region, but most games seem to be priced $10 more than PS5 games, which is $20 more than Switch games were before. So if you're in the US, for example, $60 games are now, like it seems like games were $60 on Switch 1, with the exception of a couple games, and now games are like base price. Like I think the new Mario Kart World is $80, for example, in the US, or at least according to Walmart listings, they are. In Canada, however, so people are wondering like what the prices are in Canada, and obviously there are a few games that are like $84.99. Only third-party games have been confirmed in Canada. Nintendo of Canada has not revealed the prices for our games here, but Demon X Machina, which is not exclusive to Switch 2 and it's multi-plat across PS5, Xbox, and Switch 2, it's confirmed $100 on all platforms, which is $10 more than our base price, which is $90.
What is that game? I've never heard of it.
It's a mecha kind of battle shooter. I think it's a sequel to. I mean, there is another Daemon X Machina game, and I think this is a sequel to it or a spinoff.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Is it anime?
Very anime, yes.
Yeah.
Not like 2D animation, but in anime in style.
The original was a timed Switch 1 exclusive, and then it went multi-plat later, or at least it went to PC later.
Oh yeah, it's on PC. I have it. I should play it.
Yeah, I think it was free at one point on Epic Game Store.
That is the version I have. So. Yeah, same.
So yeah, people are just like wondering, like, so my question to you is like, with the increasing costs of the console, do you think, and especially games too, like I think people were okay with the price of the console, even though it was like $50 more than people expected in the US. But I'm just like wondering, like, is Nintendo about to burn a lot of goodwill built up with the Switch 1?
I guess like I got the Switch 1 on its release date, right? And it was like gosh, Zoe, do you have handy like what was the price of the Switch when it came out?
I think it was 400 Canadian.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean that was only a few years ago. So like we're not talking about like inflation. Like inflation would be 400 to 500. This is like a almost doubling of price.
It's sizable, yeah.
It's $20 cheaper than the base slim PS5 with a disc drive.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, like, Nintendo is not stupid. Or, I'm sorry, Nintendo is, like...
I mean, they're logical, I think is what you're trying to say, right? Like, they know what they're doing.
They have a sense of, like, what they're doing. So I'm wondering whether or not the demographics of Switch users are, like... Is it like families buying things for their children, or is it more like adults who are playing games themselves?
I think both, probably. I have to assume it's both.
Mixture. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, though, is that like if a significant portion of their user base is people who are like, you know, parents buying games for their kids, then that's prohibitive.
Oh yeah, that's astronomical.
That is like imagine being gosh, like I was begging for Nintendo consoles as like Christmas presents as a kid, and like that's when it was like so much less than this. Yeah. Now we're in the territory of like this is the cost of a PS4 Pro, or sorry, a PS5 Pro, whatever they call it,
without the disc drive. Yeah.
What is the?
I don't remember.
What do you mean without the disc drive?
PS5 Slim. I'm not sure if the Slim is any cheaper than the original base PS5 model, but the PS5 Pro is also wildly overpriced in my opinion, because it's like, look at these and Nintendo did the exact same thing in their trailer. They're like, look at these background pixels on Mario's mustache. You can see 3 more extra pixels. On a Switch, I think it's a little more impressive.
I mean, this is one of those things that I've been saying for ages, is that like I don't actually care that much about how much better graphics get, because I've been seeing incredible games get made with low fidelity. And I say that, I don't even like saying low fidelity, even though that's the accurate term, because like, oh my gosh, like stylized art and like, hey, you can have like stylized art and render things at 4K, and it doesn't take an incredibly powerful machine, and it's prohibitive to require a powerful machine. The best game, okay, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here. The best looking game of all time is Ekamy. In my opinion. In my opinion. And the only games that have ever been made that look...
Wind Waker, but okay.
Ekamy looks better than Wind Waker, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's totally subjective.
I mean, they both are.
Like the only... Well, yeah, Wind Waker is also... Well, it's a future-proof art style, right? Like Wind Waker too.
No, you're right. Ekamy is beautiful.
Well, they both use cell shading in really gorgeous and just inventive ways, so...
They're amazing. They're amazing. Oh, I actually... Okay, no, I'm not going to go on that tangent, because then we'd be here all night. But I just mean that, I fantasize about an industry where, like, smaller teams can realize their creative ambitions without having to have, like, like hundreds of artists and programmers who are doing things that like, oh my goodness, it's just not that necessary, you know? I don't care that much about whether or not there are like 4K mega textures that have guns doing the absolute perfect reflection of the environment. And I know that, like, yes, programmatically that is very impressive that you can do those shaders. Like, I'm a technical artist, but also that doesn't make the game better, and I swear to God I'll never notice.
Well, and it's interesting too because with Nintendo, like, they've not often really been the kind of company to, you know, promote consoles and primarily be like, wow, look at the quality of these, look at the resolution of this game, look at what this console can run, because they've always been a slight step behind technology-wise compared to other consoles that come out maybe a little before them. And that's not a detriment. And yeah, exactly, right? And it's not a detriment at all. Like, I agree. For years, and honestly, just because I've been playing Nintendo for so long, like, I don't really care. Like, similarly, I don't care that much about graphical capabilities necessarily.
Nintendo is still the only company that can make me want to buy a console for their games.
Yeah.
So here's the thing though about so I have a couple points going back to like the goodwill of like, will people buy this console, right? Because like, the games are going to speak for themselves. But on the other hand, Nintendo has done, first off, it's not the pandemic anymore. People are not buying consoles and games with money hand over fist.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm not buying this. I'm not going to buy this for years. Like, this is so, it's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though, is that Nintendo has done this exact scenario with a handheld before and been burned, which is why I'm so surprised they're banking on goodwill from the Switch 1 that I think they're going to burn. So the DS is the second highest selling console / handheld of all time. Actually, I think it just got surpassed by the Switch 1. Or it's going to be in the next.
It is wild. Hi, Zoe Wild. The DS made so much money. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But then when they released the 3DS, right, the price was too much at the time. People just didn't buy the 3DS. People left it on the shelves, and Nintendo had an issue.
I'm surprised.
The current source of my happiness comes from my 3DS. Like,
right?
It came from like a week. It came with a weak launch lineup at the time, which my personal opinion is Mario Kart is not good enough for me to want to buy this console.
No, me too.
It's not the killer app for me. None of the games are. Even Kirby.
Mario Kart is fun because you have your friends over. Like, the only multiplayer game that could sell a system is Smash Bros. But that's just me because I was a basement lord, you know?
Well, here's the thing too. Like, so Mario Kart World, I think it is a system seller of sorts, but it's also one of those like slow burn over time when casuals are buying it.
It'll be a system seller for people. It's also easier to develop, like, genuinely. Like, I think that Mario Kart is something that iteratively is a lot cheaper for them to develop than something like a new 3D Mario or Zelda game. Like, those are exhaustive experiences, and oh my goodness gracious, I really hope they drop the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom model for the next Zelda game, because that's my favorite. That's like one of my favorite series in games.
Yeah, I do honestly feel like after I finished watching the Direct, I was like, well, I didn't know the price at the time that I finished watching the Direct, but at the time I wondered about the price, and primarily because I wondered if, like, depending on the price, if it was going to be the same, if the sales were going to end up similarly comparatively to like from the Wii to the Wii U. Like, the Wii U tanked. I have a Wii U. I generally like my Wii U. And I don't
think it'll be that bad. I think
there were some great games on Wii U.
Disaster.
Oh yeah,
where Nintendo has to. Sorry to cut you off, but I think Nintendo is going to. So what happened with the 3DS is Nintendo cut the price, I think, less than a year after it launched. And when they did, they didn't refund the difference to people who'd bought in, but they did start the Ambassador program, which they gave out 10 NES games and 10 GBA games for free to all their players that had purchased in early, like early adopters. I think in a year, if Nintendo is not too stubborn, and they are, I think the initial launch, I think at Christmas time, the system is not going to sell as well.
Yeah.
Because buying the console is one thing. Sure, spending $630 Canadian on a console is like one thing. People did it with the PS5. I think they will do it with the Switch. However, I think people are going to get sticker shock trying to buy any more than one game. Like, yeah, you're going to get Mario Kart with the bundle, and that's great. It's going to be like a discount for that, but then you're going to go look and say, oh, I want the new Pokemon game.
Yeah.
And like, it's people just aren't going to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this earlier, but we should say it on the podcast, which is like, the overall prices of these things are kind of keeping up with inflation, but also like people are poorer now. Like compared to
cost of living is so high.
The cost of living crisis is like, I think there's an argument.
This is
not in a cost of living crisis. I think there's an argument to be made for saying like it's just inflation, right? Because like games in the 90s, right, where still like if you inflate for 90s game prices on like the SNES or the N64 or even the PS1, like games were already $100 in the 90s at that time. So like now it's $160.
I literally like I went 30 years back and I was like, okay, well, what was the average game price in 1995? So 30 years ago, and it's like, okay, it was about like $50 to $60, which is like, okay, yeah, sure. And that today is like $104. So like games are cheaper by inflation, but oh my goodness gracious, that's a lot harder of a hit now than it would have been than $50 or $60 was back then.
And I don't think I don't think this is the last time we're going to see. There's analysts predicting, and I've talked about this on the show before, I forget which episode, but there are predicting that GTA is going to be the, Nintendo did it first, but people are saying that GTA 6 might end up being $100 for the base game. And if they do that, that's going to give the industry the go-ahead to increase prices even more. And I think, I don't know if Nintendo will follow suit on that, but Nintendo's made this first foray into a price increase.
I said this to you earlier, like if GTA launches like $20-$30 above like what the norm is, then that creates a precedent. And you know what though? That's precedent is scary. Going to fail. Because like that is getting into territory of like I think that normal consumers like the kinds of people who only buy like GTA, Call of Duty, sports games. I think that if GTA inspires that jump, that might actually be a bridge too far. I hope.
Right.
I hope I'm being optimistic. I might be wrong. Like I'm kind of sad if that's not the case. You know?
Well, here's another thing to think about though, and this is more for listeners, but like a full price Call of Duty game in the US is $70. Whether you want to pay that or not, but like a full price like God of War Ragnarok when it launched was $70. Mario Kart World is $80. Does anyone here think Mario Kart World is worth more than God of War Ragnarok? And like we can debate quality of game and all that other stuff, but like when I'm buying like a AAA game, like I don't know if I am comfortable with the idea that Mario Kart World costs more than God of War Ragnarok new at full price.
Yeah.
I can imagine a scenario where maybe Mario Kart is worth it, but I don't think that that's most people, and that's definitely not me, where it's like, if I am often in the situation where I have a few friends over and we're always playing Mario Kart, sure, that's great, but like God of War Ragnarok is like, there is just, it's really good. It's really, really, really good in a way that is like almost unprecedentedly good.
Yeah. Like, and I really... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, good. No, I was just going to say, like, I really want to play Ragnarok, and I honestly have just been trying to wait for a sale, because I really like the first PS4 God of War game. Yeah. And comparatively, like, I mean, I wonder about if they had instead said, like, hey, we're working on Mario Kart, but hey, here's like a fancy trailer for like the next Zelda. I know like they just released Tears of the Kingdom, but like, would that have been a different reception if it was also $80? I don't know.
Zelda as a series, like The Legend of Zelda is one of my favorite things in my life. And
same.
Breath of the Wild is really good, and Tears of the Kingdom was a slightly better version of that, and it's like, if they don't do something, I'm done with Zelda. That's just not that interesting.
Also, remember that when they released Tears of the Kingdom, it was $10 more at launch than Breath of the Wild was. So let's, for example, put it in perspective. Let's say it's in US dollars. It was a $70 game.
Yeah.
So what if the next Zelda is 80 or even 90 US dollars? What if like Zelda commands an even higher premium?
Yeah.
Like, are you willing to pay like $90 for a new Zelda game over, like, let's say it comes out around the same time as the next Horizon or the next God of War, which is probably going to be like 70 or 80, or maybe by that point Sony has also clued in and they're also releasing games at 100. But like, it just seems weird to me that, like, I don't like comparing games versus hours of content versus quality, but I think when it's AAA games made by massive corporations, it's okay. Not so much maybe an indie game versus another indie game, or an indie game versus a AAA.
Right,
like,
they're funded differently, yeah.
So the next thing too, let's move forward a little bit here and talk about Nintendo Switch 2 edition games. I'm just going to run through these really quick and then we can talk about them for a bit. Like how PS4 games, when they came to PS5, certain PS4 games, for example, like God of War, The Last of Us Part 2, they got like a patch with like better visuals, maybe a little bit of extra content, like depending on which game it was, maybe it was a free patch, maybe it was a $10 upgrade for like a director's cut. But they made certain PS4 games look better on PS5. Nintendo is doing the exact same thing with some of their Nintendo Switch 1 games. It seems it'll be anywhere from free, depending on if it's just like a quick patch, like for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Some games just come with a performance patch. So Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are getting 4K HDR resolution. I think they're getting some ray tracing, possibly. That's what it looks like to me anyway, but I could be wrong. And it is also getting a frame rate boost from 30 to 60 FPS. And then there are some games that are getting all that with like enhancements plus extra content. So like Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby and the Forgotten Land are getting like DLC. And those seem to be costing around $20. And this is all US prices. But yeah, so there's like varying degrees of how these patches are going to work and these boosts are going to work. But some of the games are, Breath of the Wild, which is no extra content, just performance boost. Tears of the Kingdom, which is just a performance boost. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is getting mouse controls and a performance boost. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is getting new content and a performance boost. Mario Party Jamboree, same thing, new content and a performance boost. Pokemon Legends ZA is getting a performance boost, which is a pretty big deal. Pokemon at 4K and 60 FPS, I think for the first time since Emerald version I was seeing. It was the last time there was a Pokemon game with 60 FPS across the board. And some third-party games are also getting it. And the free updates that are coming to certain games are Mario Odyssey and 3D World, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and as we were talking about earlier, I think it was before the podcast, but maybe during, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is also getting a free performance boost. And some of these games are getting a free, like the patches or like the paid patches are going to be included on NSO Expansion Pass if you have it. So I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are like included as part of and I think those are the only confirmed games, but they're going to be included as part of the expansion pack if you have NSO.
Yeah, that was actually really nice. To learn that they had that for the NSO membership. I was like, oh, okay, that's actually a little like, I don't have either of the Zelda game, or no, I have Breath of the Wild. But knowing that, like, you know, my membership for NSO can go towards that and just save me some dollars, great.
Yeah.
Is it I'm not actually clear about this. Are we paying for the upgrades?
It depends. So certain games are going to be free and it will just be like a mild performance boost, which isn't clear how the performance boost will occur. If it's like a frame rate, if it's resolution, if it's both, if it's neither. So some games are free. Some games are a $10 patch if there's no extra content, and some get like it'll be $10, and then there's some games that have DLC plus the performance boost, which are like more expensive. Does that make sense?
It does make sense as like a business thing. It feels kind of scummy to me. Like I don't like that. You're changing rent. You're basically running the same game just on better hardware that is clearly made to like grandfather in the previous thing, and so it's like it's a nickel and diming thing. Like it's not a lot of work to do that. It's like, hey, what if you build a game for a system and then you run that build on a more powerful system? It's gonna run better.
Yeah.
I think go on.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that people have the same issue with the PS5 patches being paid as well. So
I don't like those either.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, Amy.
No, I was gonna say that exact thing, and also like I would feel like I don't have any strong urge to really like upgrade my game, like pay to upgrade the look of my game and like the performance of it. I will say like the new content for games like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I mean, depending on the price again, I'm like, okay, that's DLC. That's kind of the norm nowadays. Like I might put a little bit of money towards that. I really enjoyed that game.
I'm cool paying for new content, right?
Yeah.
Like an expansion pack or whatever.
Yeah.
So normally I would agree with you, but I'm a huge slut for better visuals in a Zelda game and Pokemon. And I would actually be pretty pissed off too, except they got me with Tears of the Kingdom running at 4K 60 FPS. It looked gorgeous, even in the crappy stream from Nintendo, the live stream. But also just seeing Pokemon run at 60 FPS is like, that's worth an extra $25 for me. I would pay 25 Canadian dollars for that, only because I'm a huge slut for Pokemon. Like they've got me. Like I don't even agree with it, but I'm gonna pay it anyway. I have no choice. No choice.
This is actually, I guess this is a question I have. How much do you care about like resolution and frame rate? Because I am like a person who cares a lot about how games look, but I don't know if I've ever like if you showed side by side 60 versus 120 FPS, it doesn't make a big difference to me. 30 versus 60, I do notice a difference.
Yeah.
However, like, it's not usually that much. Outside of very specific games, it doesn't make a big difference for me. And it's like, resolutions. The only reason I like 4K displays more is because the colors are better.
I have been waiting 20 years for a Pokemon game that doesn't run like ass. You're not taking this from me.
I don't need to take it from you. I'm just like I'm actually like interested in like how many people care that much about it, because like to me it's like
I think most Nintendo fans are going to agree with you that they do not care.
Yeah.
If you because Nintendo fans have gotten used to being a generation behind in terms of like fidelity.
There's also a lot of kids on the console that just will not care about it. They just want to they want to get
true.
their Mario or their Pokemon cartridge in, and they want to play the game, you know.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see like how Nintendo does on this, because I maybe I'm wrong here, but like this is the first time that Nintendo has tried to push a premium price point in a while.
I think it's gonna crash and burn. Like
close to the other close to the PS5 price. Like I was surprised.
Well, you might know this better than I do, but like the PS5 Pro or Plus or whatever the heck they call it. What is it? Like how much does that cost in Canada?
Like the
$1 billion?
Are we talking the most premium version of the PS5?
Oh, like with the disc drive and all that?
Well, the disc drive doesn't even come with it.
No, that's what I mean. Like you got to buy an extra. You got to buy a disc. Basically, buy an external. And wasn't that like when I think it was the Pro plus the extra disc drive was like close to like $1,000 Canadian? Like it was
Pro.
It was wild.
Okay, so I did look it up.
Sorry, I was looking it up. So tell me, hit me with it.
The Canadian price for just the base PS5 Pro, and when I say base, I mean just the PS5 Pro that comes in the box, no extra games, nothing.
Yeah,
is 959 Canadian.
Yep.
Oh,
the disc drive is not
that
listed
before
here,
or after tax?
Price is the US price for a disc drive if you want that, and I think most people buying a Pro of console.
Sorry, Zoe. Before you say that. Can you tell me, is that $959 before or after tax?
Before tax.
Before.
Oh my gosh!
And tax here is 13. Okay, at least tax in Ontario is 13%. I'm not sure about what it is in Quebec, but
I wonder if I can gaslight my girlfriend into liquidating some of her investments enough for me to get that.
Well, and then there's the.
That was a joke. That was a joke. She's here. I'm sorry. I don't want her to hate me.
Well, I was going to give you investment advice and say that like you should also liquidate enough stocks to get the disc drive, which is at least $80.
Oh,
I'm not sure about the Canadian price
with
for
the
that.
tariffs. With the tariffs, expensive electronics might be about as good as stocks.
Well, apparently, I don't know if this is true because again, people never post news articles anymore, especially with Trump. So it's always hard to verify exactly what he said because everything he says is absurd. But I did read that he was also Nintendo Japan's entire thing was like, well, if they tariff Japan or China, for example, where the Switch is manufactured, the Switch is also manufactured in Vietnam. So as long as they don't tariff Vietnam, the Switch 2 price will stay stable. But I think Trump is also planning to tariff Vietnam as well.
Great. Great.
So the US price of the Switch 2 and this is like, again, cost of living crisis, a high console price that Nintendo fans are not used to paying, and expensive games, but also tariffs. I don't, even if Nintendo was pricing this favorably, I still think the tariffs are going to make this too expensive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's jump into some games. We're at a good time right now. So
Can we please talk about games?
Yes, let's talk about games. Okay,
let's go.
So let's talk about Mario.
Because, I think we all agree it's too expensive, and the business model is weird, and we're not happy with it.
Well, maybe the games will convince us.
I mean, kinda. We'll talk about it.
Can I preface this by saying that, recently, and I've talked to y'all about this, I my 3DS has been sitting in a drawer for 10 years, and I just got a bunch of new games on it that I have now had in my purse and just been hanging out with my 3DS every day.
Nice.
And that has been I love games again because Nintendo has wonderful Toyota game design.
They do.
If this was anyone else, I would hate it, but just Nintendo makes the best video games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, the new Mario Kart looks really amazing. So it's called Mario Kart World. It's not a crossover game, unfortunately. I wish. But it is open world. So everyone was like, is it open world? No, Nintendo would never make open world Mario Kart. But they did. So the whole premise of this game is that you race on your 4 tracks like you normally would in a Grand Prix. But in between each race, instead of loading into the next track, you drive across the map to the next track while still racing your opponents.
Yeah, that's so fun. I was actually talking about this with my partner, because I watched the direct and then I was summarizing it for him, and I was like, yeah, they have all these cool features from Mario Kart World, and then you race to the next course basically, and while still going, and he was like, oh my god, that sounds awesome.
There's also a version of the Grand Prix that's called Knockout Tour, and so it's the same idea, except I think you're doing more than 4 races, but at the end of every race, if you don't get in the top, let's say there's 24 racers in a race, they've confirmed that, but let's say you're not in the top 16, you are eliminated, which is a first. I mean, this is a standard racing feature in other games, but Nintendo's adding it, so suddenly it's brand new and sparkly and shiny, right? But it is really cool to see Mario Kart World finally, or Mario Kart add modern racing features. Mm-hmm. There's also free roam, so you can literally just drive around this big open map, go off the track. You can't. It's not just you're on the tracks and you race to any track.
They're making Mario Horizon World.
Basically,
yes.
Which I'm cool with, actually.
I feel like I'd be kind of weirded out if I when I try it the first time to be I can just go on the grass, and it's not I don't get a penalty or anything. I can just do it.
Also, you don't slow down when you're on the grass for the first time.
Yeah.
So
the first time you touch grass is weird.
Say that again, Zoe?
The first time you touch grass is weird.
They added new features too. There's always something new with the racing. I think you can rail grind and wall run now with the racing. Yes. I don't think that's as cool as the open world. But I think it looks great. Now, I have a theory. If you'll hear me out here, I have a theory that there's going to be DLC that adds multiple extra maps to the edge of the open world map. And that's when we're going to get our crossover content. So you're going to be able to drive around Hyrule. You'll be able to drive around Dreamland. You'll be able to drive around, I don't know, what's Splatoon's map called? Does it have a world name or whatever?
I don't remember. It's a city name, isn't it? They
Inkopolis, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be able to drive around Inkopolis, on an open world version of those. So I think that's maybe where, if they're going to bring over crossover elements again, that's where they're going to have that.
That would be awesome. I'd be down for that.
Zoe, is this enough to get you to buy a Switch 2? This game?
Oh my goodness. Oh. I might buy a Switch 2 used in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
That's quick. That's fair. That seems quick for you, so. Does anyone else have anything to say about Mario Kart World before we move on?
I am super excited to, whenever I get to play this game, whenever I buy it, eventually, I am so looking forward to having my main racer be the Moo Moo cow. That's all I want. He was in the trailer, and I was like, I love him.
Okay, let's move on to the next headline here. Well, not headline, but the next thing in my notes, which is 4 queer games were actually in the direct, and they're pretty big ones. So we can just talk about these super quick, but there was Deltarune Chapters 1 to 4, which is So chapters 3 and 4 previously haven't been released anywhere, so they finally have a release date. That's June 5th. They're going to be available with the console launch, also on other platforms. But they will also be June 5th is the launch date for the console. That's when this game is releasing with all 4 chapters on Switch 2. And it will include, obviously, chapters 3 and 4 releasing everywhere else. Hades 2, which currently still doesn't have a release date, is going to be on the console at some point. It will probably be exclusive like the first Hades was. At least console exclusive.
Wait. Deltarune and Hades 2 are queer games?
They absolutely are.
Whoa. That's dope.
And so the other 2 games are Borderlands 4. They didn't give a date for this, despite the fact that it's actually it has a launch date on other consoles, which is September 23rd. And also the other game, which is very, very overtly queer, is Cyberpunk 2077, which is coming on June 5th. And that is a game that I think visually looks like ass on the Switch too, personally.
I still have the PS4 version of Cyberpunk. Probably like super patched and looking okay now, but
I don't know.
Yeah, it was a gift from my brother. And it was so funny because he got it for me for Christmas, and he did tell me, of course, and he gives it to me. And that was at the time when like all the news were coming out was of like this game is unplayable and it's getting taken off of the Steam page and all that Steam store. And I just like I knew all that, and I just got like he gave it to me, and I'm like, wow, thank you. And I'm like, oh, I feel bad. Like I hope I can play this. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited for a lot of these. I still need to play Hades 1, and I eventually will play Hades 2. Deltarune, I've been following a playthrough on YouTube for these, so I'm just excited. Like, I eventually want to play them, but I will probably be excited to watch that playthrough. And yeah.
I had an incredibly good time with Cyberpunk. When it came out, when it was allegedly broken, which it was. I know it was broken. I just had a good computer.
That's fair.
And got really lucky. I got really lucky because, like, for me, Cyberpunk was just, like, I love immersive sims and stealth games, and Cyberpunk was a game that was basically just solid stealth gameplay and a bunch of random levels, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna, like, run around the city and do cool stealth missions. I have way more bug tolerance.
I never finished my playthrough. I think I've probably told this story in the podcast, but Cyberpunk 2077 on PS4 on launch day. I was trying to like do the tutorial, and it's like you need to learn how to crouch. You press square to crouch or whatever it is. Maybe it was circle, but it was like you press square to crouch. And so I pressed it and nothing happened. So I pressed it again, nothing happened. I pressed it 2 more times and still nothing happened. I waited a few seconds, and then suddenly my character crouched, uncrouched, crouched, and uncrouched, all in like really quick succession, and I was like, "Oh boy, this is unplayable." So I uninstalled it, and I never reloaded it.
I think it's basically criminal that they tried to launch that game on the Xbox One and PS4. Like that's not okay.
Yeah.
I think if they hadn't launched it on PS4 and just said, "This is now this game you've been waiting the entire generation and you bought your console for," because I know a couple people who bought their consoles because of like Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk.
Right.
I think if they'd launched it on PS5, because it came out like 2 weeks after the PS5 launched or whatever, and the Xbox Series, I think if they'd only put it on those consoles you couldn't get at launch, the uproar would have been worse than an unplayable game.
Well, that's morality versus capitalism.
That's true. So let's move on. There were a bunch of other games announced. Actually, I don't think Nintendo had a killer app, personally. I don't think Mario Kart World is a killer app. However, they announced a lot of games. So the next one was Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. So this is a sequel, kind of, to, or at least a follow-up to Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, which is a prequel to Breath of the Wild. This is a prequel to Tears of the Kingdom. It takes place in the past, featuring Zelda's story that's taking place simultaneously in the game with Link's story. It's a Warriors-style hack-and-slash game, and they didn't give a specific date, but they said it's coming winter 2025.
Yeah, they're making a Muso, which is like that's incredibly interesting because Hyrule Warriors was my first Muso, and I spent enough time with that to love that genre and realize that it was like actually like a completely unique and interesting type of gameplay that I hadn't done before, which is like okay.
No, please go.
I have.
Yeah.
Oh no. I want to hear about your experiences with Hyrule Warriors because I have an entire weird, pretentious game design thing to say about like second tier like secondary gameplay loops that I think like Muso games like that and like early Resident Evil both capture that are like interesting. But also they're just fun. They're just fun. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
I love the Hyrule Warriors games. I played Age of Calamity to finish. I never did all the side or DLC content. Just because once I was done with it, I was like done with it. It scratched an itch, and that itch was scratched. But I like, first off, I like the gameplay style. I think the gameplay loop is really, really fun.
You're never gonna finish a Muso, or you're never gonna finish Hyrule Warriors. It's like 2 billion years of content.
You're right. It is. It's a lot of content. But also, I do like that it's like also story content that the Zelda games don't really offer in depth.
Yeah, I've only ever played the first Hyrule Warriors game, and for the similar reasons, like I really enjoyed the little bit of like just extra story, as well as just having like, you know, going through the story and unlocking a bunch of characters from previous Zelda games that I was like, oh, it's so cool. And basically, I found that I like the gameplay is not necessarily my kind of thing, but I did basically get to a point where I unlocked, like I spent a good amount of time unlocking a character that I just desperately really wanted to get. And when I got him, I was like, okay, I'm done. And I was happy.
But what is the gameplay? Like the moment-to-moment gameplay is just like kind of like mindless hack and slash stuff, right?
Yeah, which is great. It's my favorite part of the game.
But also, like, the thing that you're usually worrying about is, like, you're looking at the map and you're being like, you know, like, okay, well, I have, like, these people who are on the field, and these are the places that are vulnerable, and, like, these are the things that are being attacked, and, like, all these things,
right.
Where it's, like, that's the part of, like, the Muso gameplay template that, like, I found, like, so interesting, where I was, like, I had for years I had seen like Dynasty Warriors. Like one of my friends is like so into Dynasty Warriors, and I'm like, how the heck are you into this? It's just mindless hack and slash. And then, oh no, there is actually like an incredibly large amount of strategy involved in like delegating like all of these things. And like Hyrule Warriors was a game that taught me that, where it's like, oh, there is like, again, like it's like a secondary gameplay loop where it's like it's not about the moment to moment, it's about the like strategy? Like what's happening in the next like 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, the first time you have to really think about it, it stressed me out because I didn't realize the game was teaching you to do that. And I was having trouble with the map. There's like the 3 bosses on one of the maps that's like, and everyone had that. I read it, and everyone was having the same problem. But like once you figure that out, that the game is like also trying to teach you at least. And maybe Age of Calamity's game design makes it harder to teach that. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's. Well, like,
I don't know. I played the first Hyrule Warriors or whatever the one on the Switch was. Was that the first one?
All 3 of them are on this. Well, the first 2 are on the Switch, but there's like the one that's like the crossover of all the games, and then there's the prequel to. They made another game that's a prequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, so the crossover has like just characters from different games. Yeah.
The onboarding of that taught me that genre, because like before that I had like played like, you know, Dynasty Warriors and stuff, and I just like 5 minutes and I'm like, whatever, this is mindless bullshit, blah blah blah. But like the onboarding process of Hyrule Warriors actually was like, oh no, it's mindless because you're also thinking about like the big field. Like I think there was like a Twilight World map where Zant was like the enemy champion and like stuff like that, and I was like, oh, this is actually like good gameplay. This is neat. I'm not gonna say this is like my favorite game or whatever. Like it's not really my thing, but I'm also like, this is good gameplay. This is interesting. This is really, really cool.
We're gonna move on and talk about 3 more games. So we're gonna quickly talk about Dragon Drive, which is 3-on-3 wheelchair basketball, Rocket League style, which is a really strange, and it's a Nintendo exclusive. Like it's a first party Nintendo game that just looks strange for them. It doesn't look strange. It actually looks really good, but it seems very strange for Nintendo to make this like a wheelchair basketball game.
I was really excited, or just like intrigued.
That's kind of based.
Came up, right? I was excited at the premise because I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that's the that it's you know, focusing on wheelchair sports and specifically basketball for this. I'm like, oh, that's neat. so I was happy about it. I will say the other thing that kind of came to my mind is that, and probably goes in line with what Zoe Wild was saying here, of like, it's odd for it to be maybe a Nintendo game. And it was primarily because when I looked at it, I was like, wow, this game is visually very dark. Like I'm used to it. I'm used to Nintendo games being like super colorful. Not to say that they all are, but like, I don't know. It just seemed like, I was like, I kind of wish there was more color to this game. But that was like my only like wish. Otherwise, I think the game looks really cool.
I love the premise of the game a lot. Like, it's pretty base to have like a really like cool, badass, wheelchair basketball game. The visual style feels like, I don't know, like try hard, like they're trying really hard to make this cool in like cool cyberpunk sci-fi way. And it's like, I don't know
if that hits.
It's just on Nintendo to be
right.
To do this.
Well, it removes the personality from everyone. Like, when I watched the trailer, I wasn't actually sure until quite a ways in whether or not these were people in wheelchairs or if they were robots with torsos.
Yeah.
Fair.
I did triple take watching this trailer because I was like, it's just Nintendo treats disability in their games, like general disability features, for example. Like, they don't really consider that. Like, the fact that you can button mapping is like, that's like pretty recent for Nintendo to include that. So, and it's not a feature they promote either. So, and I haven't talked about this on the podcast yet. There was a news story a couple weeks ago that Nintendo said like, oh, we're starting this accessibility feature thing, and like other developers and other companies can opt in. And they kind of touted it as like, it's the first of its kind. And I'm like, Nintendo, you are late to the party. Even PlayStation has better options than you do. PlayStation and Xbox have like malleable controllers where you can kind of like choose which buttons go where and all that stuff. And like, you don't have that. You've like literally held back button mapping until like 5 years ago. So like, it just seems weird for me for Nintendo to like just do this. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad they're making some kind of stride forward, but it just like, visual style.
Is it weird for Nintendo to be behind?
Sorry? I mean, I guess not.
Yeah, like that's good. Nintendo.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's like, it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of based like. It actually felt really weird to come from Nintendo because it was like, oh, really? You're doing this?
Yeah. But I mean, I guess we'll see. Like I don't know how well it'll do. I kind of hope it does well.
It has no fucking personality. Like, that's the thing, is that like I think about like the best basketball games of all time. Like, Charles Barkley showed up in Jam and like NBA Jam and stuff, where it's like I don't know, like basketball is a cool ass sport, and like.
Do you think Nintendo is... Sorry to cut you off, Zoe. I've just had this thought.
Yeah.
Do you think Nintendo is scared to give it personality and style because they're worried about making too much light of wheelchair basketball and looking insensitive?
I don't know. Maybe, like... I feel like maybe they're like... This is the thing when I... Okay. I had a thought when I was watching the trailer, and this is undercooked, and I don't want to seem ableist. But also, like, this was kind of my initial idea, is, like, they're trying to make it seem too cool.
Okay.
And the only thing that they could think of was, what if we make them weird cyberpunk robot people? As opposed to being, like, human beings. Because, like, can you actually like meaningfully differentiate any of the individual like players within the trailer they showed?
I think they're all similar designs, right? Yeah.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
None of them have faces, none of them have personalities. It's just,
which in a way like is like a little like it can be seen as unfortunate too for a game that, you know, the base of its gameplay is I imagine supposed to be like showing that it's progressive and being like, hey, you can play this game. You can play basketball in a wheelchair. That's super cool. But like,
yeah, like it's
but that's,
it's not
that's
showing
it,
that it's progressive. Right? It's like it's like wheelchair basketball is a thing that happens, and like I'm thinking about like I don't know if there's ever been a wheelchair basketball game, but there's been basketball games, and like some of the best, most well-remembered ones are all about the personality and like the vibe and stuff, and just like Cyberpunk Robot Rocket League is just so generic. I would love to see them have like, I don't know, like Barkley showed up in Jam and like NBA Streets, and like just there's so much.
Well,
there's so many good basketball games. They aren't doing anything with it.
Yeah, part of me also wonders if it's going to end up a little bit like how ARMS was, where it's like, hey, we're showing this really cool and fun, and like, I mean, in ARMS' case, it was very whimsical and colorful, and you were like, oh, you got bendy long arms, and that's how you're going to fight, and they can all these characters have different things. That still felt very Nintendo, obviously, but at the same time, ARMS didn't really get a whole lot of support after like a year. Like that was the game, and they were like, "Yep, okay, here's a couple updates here and there, but we're done. That's just ARMS." And I thought they made like a second game, but I don't know if it did very well. They didn't. No, they didn't. Okay, fair.
No, I don't know. I got ARMS when the Switch came out, and like I enjoyed ARMS. It was solid, but like it was like, it's like, you know, they just announced a new Mario Party game, and it's like, that is not a thing I'm going to buy a console for. ARMS was like, I have already bought this Switch.
Yeah.
Sunk cost fallacy makes me want to buy more of these mediocre games.
My only thing is, I think it's good representation and the right step forward to have a game about wheelchair basketball. I think the world needs to see that.
It's awesome representation.
Yeah.
I love it.
Needs to make it more enticing. It needs to have something to just like draw you in.
It's so
based. I think the gameplay
Yeah.
loop is good, but it just looks, like you said, it looks like a generic Cyberpunk game.
It's
so based.
It needs to be more colorful.
I want to see disabled representation. Like, it just...
Yeah.
And like, imagine being a kid who plays wheelchair basketball, or kid in a wheelchair, and seeing this game and being like, wow, Nintendo didn't put the effort in to make this colorful and appealing despite like the base of it being like really, really good. Like, imagine being like, yeah, your Mario Kart looks great, your ARMS looks great, and like it's colorful, like Splatoon is colorful, and then there's this like drab looking, almost like, I don't want to say it looks scary, but like it's not, like you see the robots.
It's a little bit grimdark future. Yeah.
But the basketball games that I'm citing are like things where like, oh, like people have personality, like they are human beings. You can see some of their flesh, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we do have to move on because I want to talk about a couple other games, but I think I will say, I'll just end with this, is that Nintendo doesn't reveal a game until they're ready to show it and it looks like the way they want it to look. And I don't think this game is going to get a visual upgrade before release since it's coming out this summer. I think this is the way it's going to look. Otherwise, Nintendo would not have revealed it so early on looking like this, unfortunately. But let's move on to Kirby Air Riders. This game, I cried and I screamed when I saw this reveal.
I'm
and
so excited.
When I saw Kirby falling towards that like drab warp star and got the color back, I was like, we know Sakurai's making a game, and they're not gonna have like they already revealed another Kirby game in the presentation. That's like their big Kirby game for the summer. It was DLC for the old one.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then he's falling on the star, and I'm like, I think every Nintendo fan had this instinct of just like, is it Kirby Air Ride?
Yeah.
And at first I saw the like jets come out of the star, and I was like, it's probably Kirby Air Ride. And then they open up to the map, and you saw the racetrack, and I like shit my fucking pants. And then of course it was like the Pokemon Legends EA reveal where they just kept dropping like little tidbits that make fans like on paper really happy.
Yeah.
And then they were like, guess who it's directed by? Masahiro Sakurai. He's not making another Smash game. It's not some Kid Icarus game. It's the fucking Kirby game he made last.
Yeah.
His best Kirby. Anyway, I just like, and also it's just weird to me that they're making a Kirby Air Ride game and releasing it the same year that they have a Mario Kart World game, like a new Mario Kart game, and also Sonic Racing Cross Worlds.
Oh yeah, it's a big racing year.
First off, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is DOA. No matter how good it is, it's DOA with two Nintendo racing games competing for attention. But like, that's my only concern is like Mario Kart World is going to land-based Kirby Air Riders.
Was Kirby Air Ride a good game?
Oh, was it a good game? It was
I never played it. I never played it.
Okay,
it's so good.
I'm
not judging, but it was so good.
I never played it either.
No, judge me all the way.
Okay, I'm judging Ekamy for not playing it.
Okay, so I didn't grow up with the GameCube. I didn't get like basically up until the Nintendo Wii, I didn't have any say in what consoles we had. So my brother basically went from N64 and then right to Xbox. So we just skipped GameCube. So I was like, it's a bummer. I have played GameCube games, but just like ports onto new systems. And like,
wait, what do you mean skip to Xbox? That's the same gen. Sorry.
Well, like skip, like he had N64. GameCube was next, but he skipped GameCube and then he went to Xbox. So we did.
But that's
we get what you're saying.
Oh.
I know what you're saying, Zoe, as well. But like for the sake of time, I think we'll move on from that. But the point is, you didn't have a GameCube, right?
Yeah, that's the point. You
call yourself a Nintendo fan, Ekamy?
Well, it's sad because I call myself a Kirby fan too. Like I love Kirby, and like I love racing games. I love like any kind of like I love them. I love those kind of games, and like I've always wanted to play Kirby Air Ride, but it's never been heckin' ported anywhere, as far as I know. So I'm like, okay, well I'm gonna get something.
And it still won't be because of the sequel.
I know, so I'm like, well, I guess I'll just get Riders, and that'll be the next best thing. It looked really nice. I was like so happy when the jets came on the Star, because I was like, oh, I know so many people who are going to be really excited for this. So
Kirby Air Ride 1 on the GameCube had open world racing before Mario Kart World did 22 years ago. It will be the better. It's developed by Sakurai, who's like an auteur of video games, but also makes Nintendo games. It will be better than Mario Kart World. I have no doubt in my mind. If you're going to buy a racing game this year that's like arcade racing, Kirby Air Riders is the one to buy. Yeah. Not Mario Kart, not Sonic. I'm sorry. They're both going to be great games. I have no doubt. I've played Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. It's fun.
Yeah.
Mario Kart World looks really fun. Mm-hmm. Kirby's going to be better by a landslide. It is. If you're going to spend your $80 or your 100 Canadian on a racing game this year, Kirby Air Riders, without question. You will love it. Okay,
yeah.
The game modes in that game are really, really fun. The racing mechanics are really, really fun. Also, I'm sorry, but Kirby is cuter than any single Mario character. Even the cow.
Kirby's
I'm
adorable.
sorry.
I love Kirby.
I don't think that making something open world could ever possibly like invite me to play it. Like open world to me is like a bad thing.
I mean, I think Nintendo's a little too late on having open world racing games as like a big selling point. I think Mario Kart World is the game they should have had on the Switch 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When open world games were like really popular because of Breath of the Wild and suddenly everyone wanted them and now people want linear stuff. I think Mario Kart World is like a generation too late. But Kirby Air Ride, like its entire gameplay is City Trial. City Trial is so much fun. And I could explain it, but we're kind of going over time here. But all I'll say is that,
yeah.
And I'm sorry to cut everyone off, but like, I cried, I screamed, I shook my partner like gently, like not I didn't hurt her, but I was like so excited. And I've seen so many different reactions to this, mostly women too. It's really exciting.
Nice.
So like everyone was like crying seeing the Kirby Air Riders reveal. Like this is like
everyone loves Kirby. I love Kirby.
Yeah.
Kirby's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Kirby game I've been waiting. Like first off, I've been waiting for 3D Kirby for a long time. So Kirby in the Forgotten Land also, like I cried when they revealed that. But like
that was so
Kirby
good.
Air Ride is just like one of the best racing games ever, and like it's up there with like Mario Kart. There's like it ranks above certain Mario Kart games for me.
Yeah.
Not Double Dash. Double Dash is like tied for it, but still.
Yeah.
What I said before is more of an indictment of just like Mario Kart. Like, oh, Mario Kart's open world now, and I'm like, oh, that sounds worse.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Super quick, I'm just going to mention, because this is a very popular game right now and everyone needs to go play it, and it being on more consoles is a good thing, is that they announced Split Fiction is going to be running on the Switch too. It looks like ass, graphically speaking.
I want to play Split Fiction so bad!
Play it!
Oh my god!
It's so good. I just finished playing It Takes Two the other day. Yeah.
I got like a third into It Takes Two, and like I have to play It Takes Two with my girlfriend.
It's so good.
I need another Xbox controller though.
Oh, fair.
Fair. But yeah, Split Fiction is coming to Switch 2. Everyone's got to play it. It's so good. It's where my partner and I are almost done it. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the game, like, I think in my initial like impressions, I was like, it starts off kind of very like simple in like everything it's doing with its choices, and then it gets more and more advanced. And like the ending, oh my god, my partner and I were laughing so hard playing this one section of the game last night because we were trying to like cooperatively control this one specific thing together. And I won't spoil what it is, but like we were laughing so hard because we kept fucking it up.
Oh
but
no!
It was like such a good fucking time.
Nice.
Does it do like the thing that like It Takes Two did, where it's just like constantly like shaking up like really interesting co-op mechanics like all the time?
Yes. all the time.
That's true.
And it's like no two levels are the same. Like it's so much fun. Like they give you base controls like double jump, a dash, like an attack of some sort, right? But like every time you go to a new world, and like there's like multiple worlds, and there's also multiple side stories that have their own game mechanics. Like there's like my partner who hasn't played a ton of games, like she's played Breath of the Wild, she's played a lot of Pokemon, but there's like a lot of different gameplay genres in this in this game that like, especially for anyone who doesn't play games a lot, this is a great introduction to be like, hey, what kind of genres of games are you going to enjoy? Oh, are you going to enjoy stuff like Inside, like these side-scrolling like puzzle platformers? Are you going to enjoy action games? Are you going to? It's got like a quasi Metroidvania kind of going on in it at one point. Like,
what?
I mean,
what
it's
are you
very,
talking
very
about?
basic
Really?
kind of Metroidvania. Like it's very linear. There's no actual like
Yeah.
backtracking.
Okay.
But it felt like it.
Is it more expansive than It Takes Two?
Sounds
I've
like
never
it.
played It Takes Two. I actually kind of refuse to play it. I don't like the moral of the story.
I will say I was a little pleasantly surprised by it, but I also have like some things where I'm like, okay, maybe I would have liked this to have been done differently. So
I loved It Takes Two so much.
but the gameplay is phenomenal, and It Takes Two. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go back. I'm gonna have to go back and play it. It was always on my list to play it. I just the moral of the story has like pulled me back from playing it. But Split Fiction is like, it's
What's
a 64.
the moral of the story?
Well, without getting into it too much, but I don't. You know what? I'm not going to spoil it for people listening to the podcast. Actually,
That's fair.
I can tell you after though.
Yeah.
We also have to move on to Donkey Kong Bonanza, but I'll just say that Split Fiction is like worth the full price of admission. It's not even a full price game. Go play it. You will not regret it. Play with someone, even
It's on Game Pass.
Oh,
Is
nice.
it?
I
Oh,
just need to
perfect.
buy a new.
Perfect.
Yeah, it is. I just need to buy a new controller.
Okay, one last game. We're going to do this super quick. Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's like a 3D open world Donkey Kong game. It's a platformer. It's kind of the anti-Minecraft. So there's like a lot of digging and destruction of the world. Like anything, if you see it, you can kind of destroy it, is the idea. DK's new design, which was teased in Mario Kart World and has now been fully revealed. He's got his new non-retro design in that game. It's open world, but it's an underground world. It's like if you were playing in the depths, but the depth of Tears of the Kingdom, but it looked much more like kid-friendly. And it's due out July 17th. I think it looks really fun.
Yeah, it looked like a ton of fun. I don't really. I've played some Donkey Kong games, but I'm not like I want to play every Donkey Kong game, so I will probably wait a little bit to play this. But it does look like a lot of fun. And the new design for Donkey Kong reminds me very much of just like how like he originally looked like back when like way back like in retro times, which was kind of cool. Yeah, I think it'll be neat. It reminded me a bit of like the style of like Kirby and the Forgotten Land a little bit in terms of like, hey, 3D, kind of open world, go and explore, and in this case, destroy.
I am very curious to see what this game is because, like, as far as I'm concerned, the best 2D platformer of all time from a game design perspective is Donkey Kong Country Frozen, whatever the fuck it was called.
Oh, yeah. Tropical Freeze?
Tropical Freeze?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. That is such a brilliant game because basically like the Mario 2D level design philosophy of like, okay, well, we're going to introduce a new mechanic and then every stage is just we introduce a mechanic and then you learn to deal with it and then we have a big challenge and then you get to the flag. That's like standard Mario design and that's kept that going for like 40 years. But Tropical Freeze was like, what if every level was 2 mechanics? And then it like literally does 2 entire mechanics with remarkable aplomb. It's the best designed 2D platformer I've like ever played in terms of just like level design and like it's great. It's so good. So I'm really curious to see about whether or not Bonanza will do that, or if it's just kind of it's a lot more effort. I don't know. I have high hopes, and I'll probably play the game in 5 to 10 years because I don't have $1,000 for it.
Do either of you have super quick one game I didn't talk about that you want to mention?
I think you covered it all for me. I was most excited for Air Riders, and I guess I will probably say that I am curious about if games that were announced in the previous week for the last direct will like if they'll be purely on Switch 2 or if they'll also be on Switch 1. Like I'm pretty excited for the AI Somnium No Sleep for Kaname Date game, and I assume they'll be also on Switch 1.
It was in the Direct. Yeah.
Okay, it was? Okay, then I missed it.
Too.
But my question is...
it's on both. It's on both.
Okay, that was my question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also... Do we know about that for the Professor Layton and the New World of Steam? Is that also the case?
Yes, it was also in the Direct. It should be on both consoles. At the very least, it will be on Switch 2.
Good.
I think it was also confirmed for Switch 1, but I'm going to have to double check that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll have to do it after the podcast.
Yeah.
But...
Anyway, that's it.
Zoe?
I have more opinions that could possibly be articulated, but I want the Legend of Zelda series to return to not being what Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are.
Me too.
And I hope that the next game...
Oh my god, me too. Sorry to interrupt.
You're both fucked. Sorry.
I know.
Those games sold
so
I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like
I stand with you.
In my fantasy, like I like it when games are good, and those were good games, but like they could be better if like it wasn't like... I have a theory of distribution of polish. That's what I say. It's like open world games are like, okay, well you filled 15 square kilometers of game with content. What if you put all of that effort into, like, you know, a bunch of bespoke stuff?
There's two quick details I want to mention super quick that we're not going to discuss, but I want listeners to hear, is that we've got Hollow Knight Silksong is coming in 2025. It was in the... There's still no specific release date, but Hollow Knight Silksong was also in this Nintendo Direct. They said it's 2025, so I have to assume it's coming before the end of the year.
All right.
How many times has Hollow Knight Silksong been coming?
Technically, I think this is the 5th millionth time.
Yeah, really.
The other game that was not game, actually games were announced is that GameCube, and I also cried through this reveal as well. I screamed, I cried, I laughed, and I cried tears of joy. As GameCube is finally coming to NSO after so many years of us waiting for it on Virtual Console, for remasters, for NSO previously, it's finally coming. They confirmed Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX at launch, and then in the future we're going to get Mario Sunshine, Chibi Robo, Pokemon Coliseum, and XD fucking finally, Mario Strikers, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and Luigi's Mansion 1, which is great because it completes the trilogy on Switch too. Where can people find you both if they want to follow you on social media?
Go ahead, Amy.
No, I was actually going to say you go.
Rock, paper, scissors? Let's do it. Oh, look, we did it. I won. Okay, so,
Go on.
I'm Zoe Leet on Blue Sky, I think. I don't know, I'm Zoe Straw. I work at Astrolabe, and I love my job a lot, so please don't kill me. I'm not very public and social. Amy!
Cool. You can find me as Ekamy, so that's Ekamy, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Instagram and Blue Sky. The only difference with my username for Instagram is that I have an underscore before and after my username, because just the name Ekamy was already taken, so...
Well, thank you both for joining me. This has been awesome, and I'm glad you both finally got to meet.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This was super fun.
And that just about wraps up this bonus episode. Thank you so much, True Avatars, for joining me for another episode, a special bonus episode of your Queer Video Game Podcast. If you've made it this far into the episode, I really appreciate you taking the time to support queer-made content, which is a big deal. If you want to support the show, it would be really great if you could leave a rating, review, or comment on your preferred podcast platform. I welcome you to check out the website, trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word. That's trueavatarspodcast.com. You can also find the show on Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube under the handle @TrueAvatars, all one word, and on Instagram under TrueAvatars. Importantly, if you or anyone you know is queer and involved with video games in some way, please don't be shy. I would love to hear from more queer voices in video games. Your voice is unique, invalid, and worth sharing with the world. And if you don't want to be on the show or know anyone who's interested, but you know about a cool queer video game or games industry story that's queer related, please let me know. The show's official email is trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. That's trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. You can also feel free to reach out via the website or the aforementioned social media pages. Things are tough out there, and queer people need to stick together when we can. Bye, True Avatars. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you all again next week. Take care and stay safe.